Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and I just watched the first episode of The Mandalorian, and I think it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was excellent visually, the way everything looked. It had that realistic, gritty style to it, but also very similar to the old Star Wars movies, and with better special effects at the same time. And it had some pretty impressive CGI, which you can't even tell it's CGI, meaning you can't even tell where the practical effects meld into the CGI. And it was basically movie quality special effects and much better than the old movies, but still with the same kind of style. It also had a whole bunch of references to stuff in the old Star Wars movies. A lot of little things which were in those movies also show up here. Maybe even a little bit too much, because every single minute I see something that I remember from the old movies. So it started feeling a little bit like the member berries, like they're exploiting the nostalgia a bit too much fan service. Because every single moment I see something from the old movies, and I would have wanted to see some new stuff as well. Something original, something new, something we didn't see before. I did like those creatures that they were riding on in the desert. Those were pretty nice and funny design. I think my only problem with the show so far, and it's only the first episode, so I hope I'm wrong, but it felt as if it doesn't really have an interesting story. Like, the whole story is about this bounty hunter who is hunting down these criminals, and that's it basically. There was no real big story outside of that, but hopefully it will change. Hopefully there will be something much more interesting that will get developed in the next episodes, but so far it felt a little bit weak in the story department. Also very little dialogue, and of course the main character never took off his helmet. But I think in the visual department they definitely nailed it. It looked great, and so it was pretty enjoyable and entertaining as it was. The most interesting part of the episode to me was the very end, when they revealed something that probably will tie to a much bigger story, and also it ties to something, to a famous character in Star Wars who was kind of unique, kind of a one of a kind, and now we see another one of those kinds of creatures, and so that definitely piqued my interest. Those who saw the episode know what I'm talking about, but that definitely opens up a whole bunch of questions which I want to know the answers to, and hopefully it will lead to an interesting story as well, on a much bigger kind of galactic scale, and also it will tie possibly to some backstory of the lovable character that we all liked. Even though that's probably not the same character, but it might reveal some background information about that other character, which everybody always were curious about. So that definitely was the most interesting part of the show so far. I guess I'll give a spoiler warning now, so I'm going to discuss it in detail. So in the very end of the episode, they showed a baby alien of the same species as Yoda. They said that it's 50 years old. That was a little bit fishy to me, because I can buy the idea of an alien who is long-lived, because Yoda lived for 900 years. That's perfectly fine, but why would their babies not grow up into adults sooner? Why does it take 50 years for a baby to mature? Actually, it didn't even mature yet, it's still a baby. So a 50 years old baby. And also, how exactly do they measure the years in this galaxy? Because each planet has different orbits and stuff, so which planet do they judge the years by? Is it by a Coruscant time or what? So it also doesn't really make sense. How exactly do they measure the time? In Star Trek, in the original series, they always said 50 Earth years, to make it clear that not all the planets have the same exact timetables. So that bugged me a little bit as a science fiction nerd. And also the idea of why would the alien not mature quickly. Like, I always thought that they grow up in a reasonable time frame that would enable the species to survive and so on. So it's not as if Yoda was a baby for 100 years. He was a baby for a few years and then grew up into a young adult and then simply lived on for a long time, because that's the way his species lived. Like, that made sense. However, now it's revealed that it takes them like a century to mature from childhood. It doesn't really make sense if you think about it kind of evolutionary terms and all of that. So that bugs me a little bit, but I'm still kind of curious to see what they'll do with this character, because maybe they will finally reveal the origin of Yoda, where he comes from, where is his species, why didn't we see any other member of the species. Actually, I think we saw one other member of the species in episode 1, I think, but we almost never saw someone from Yoda's species. So this definitely has the potential to be something interesting. Maybe it will tie to the Force, maybe it will explain why Yoda was so powerful, maybe all members of his species have a high midichlorian count or something, maybe that's why this baby is so important, someone wants it. for experiments or something, so maybe it will tie to some plot by some dark forces who want to exploit this baby and so on. So I do think this might be an interesting plot line. Hopefully it will be good. So in short, I really enjoyed this episode, but it's mostly because it just looked so good. I do hope the story also gets better and more compelling and interesting in the next episode. I will definitely keep on watching. So that's it for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below and we can discuss it, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.